you mentioned in some of your talks, you mentioned the fact that everything is basically like a pattern. You know, that we're creating patterns from the beginning with everything, right? And I always like to ask this question, all the NLP's practitioner and the life coaches and all that. So yeah, you know, I understand where you're coming from and all that, but you know how it says easier said than done. You know, it's people sometimes they work on themselves. You know, they go even to therapy and they do this and they do that, but still they're unable to create that change, to change the pattern, as you call it, right? And they do believe, you know, they do put themselves the goals of, you know, how this year I really want to focus on this and I really want to do this, and they start with the enthusiasm and everything, and even if they put themselves into the right steps, but unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to say 90%, but you know, even 70%, which is a big percentage of people, they fall somewhere, you know, with the patterns, as you call it, and they go back, you know, back to the beginning. It's not just that they go back one of the steps, you know, sometimes they go all the way back to point zero where they started. So, and I know, and I'm asking you this because of the neurosemantics, semantics that you're talking about, that this is like the add-on to the NLP, you call it, the more upgrade version. So I'm just curious, is that something, first of all, like if a person go through the NLP course, okay, if he takes a course with you or with another designated practitioner that was even trained by you or not, doesn't matter. So let's say he did it for like 3 months and all that. You think that's enough, like to really make the difference, to change the person so he's not going to go back at some point? Or
so, well, there's a lot in there, and I want to unpack a little bit, because it's a really rich and very important way of thinking about things. So let me share a couple of my perspectives on that, and then we can kind of dialogue, or at least hopefully I can shine some light on that, because it's a valuable conversation. So first thing I would say is that one part of the NLP perspective is that there is no back. So people don't go back. You're continuing to move forward. Maybe you're one of the beliefs of NLP is that there's no sameness. There's only different. And there's no sameness. There's only change. And so if someone changed and then they go into a familiar pattern, let's say, first thing I would say is that there is no backwards. There's forwards, because every experience, even when someone falls back using kind of normal language that we would all talk about, there's some kind of a learning in that process, because in order to go ahead and then to come back, there's something that we can learn from that. So that would be one thing I would say, is there is no back, there's forward, and hopefully we can learn from each experience as we continue to grow. And so that's one thing I always say, is that our past is full of only two things. It's full of resources that we can use to propel ourselves forward more effectively, more efficiently, to grow from. And then the rest of it is just potential learning opportunities, which can be mined and massaged and cultivated into resources that we can then use to move forward. So any sort of setback that anybody has, again, setback goes in quotes here in terms of language, it's really just a learning opportunity for us to learn one more thing that didn't work, which is all valuable information in terms of moving forward. Right. That's one bit on that one. And just one more thing that comes to my mind is that when we talk about patterns, the idea is that everything is patterned. And so even the problems that you experience, that I experience as human beings, we all have problems. We're humans and we're fallible and we make mistakes. And we're imperfect in a perfect way, right? But we all have patterns, and all of our patterns, even the ones that we don't like the most. So someone, let's say, who has a very rigid pattern of obsessive compulsive disorder, and they have to touch the doorknob 12 times every time they leave the house, or someone who has a pattern of a phobia, is every time they see a duck or a dog or a snake, they get really strong fear from that. So even the things that we don't like about ourselves, the problems, let's say, in quotes again, those are also patterns. So everything that you do is patterned for the most part because it's just easier. Every time you sit in a chair, you don't want to have to learn that it's a chair, and then you know, you want to develop as human beings. Also, another thing about humans is that we like to make things easy. We like to automate stuff, just like your phone automates things. So I would say, like on that one of the patterns, it's one of those neurosemantic, those higher patterns, is learning to see your patterns as skills, even the bad ones, even the, you know, the person who touches the doorknob 12 times before they have to leave the house. That's an amazing skill. The person who is able to get strong emotions in themselves every time they see a dog, that's an amazing skill. And so starting to appreciate your patterns and to value your patterns is a really, really big one. Instead of trying to change or to prevent or to get rid of or to push away from, to start to look at your patterns and start to appreciate them. Within yourself, you start to become more whole. Because one of the bad patterns is when we have a pattern, let's say a behavioral pattern, a habit, and we start to judge ourselves for it, we hate ourselves for it, we dislike the pattern. Now we split ourselves into two, and part of us is attacking ourselves, which now creates another pattern, another problem that's on a whole nother level than the first problem. And now what we're doing is we're laying problems on problems on problems. That's thinking about. And so one of the most powerful patterns that I can do, that FD can do, that any NLP practitioner or coach can do, is start to first by people to get them to appreciate their patterns, even the ones that are maybe not moving them forward towards their outcome or even moving them away from that. So learning how to appreciate your patterns. And then the last thing I'll say, I know I'm saying a lot now, but the last thing I'll say on that is that look, life it's a lifetime growth opportunity. So there's no 1 day, 3 days, 8 days, and you're cured and you're good for life. Even the most high, holy, self-actualized people have problems. You'll never transcend all of your problems. It's just the quality of your problems get higher, is my experience, as you start to learn and grow and get more powerful and empowered.
Right.